I'm Mike Gonzalez with Green Vigilante Media. Today we wanted to talk about the Green Party and the representation of people of color inside that party. But I want to take a step back. In 2008, Barack Obama won presidential election. He also won re-election in 2012. And many people said we reached a post-racial society in the US. Today, we want to challenge that idea. I'm here with 3 Green Party candidates to talk about how people of color are represented in leadership roles, and specifically in leadership roles in the Green Party. So I'm here with Sedinam, Kinamo, Christin, I'm sorry, can you help me with that? I'm sorry. Curry? Is that?
You can call me President if you forget my name.
President Curry.
President Curry.
Excellent. And she's running to be the candidate for the Green Party president, or the president nominee for the Green Party. We're also here with Felina Farley, who was a Green Party candidate for US Senate in 2018, and also Aiden Hill, who was a Green Party candidate for City Council in Berkeley. Sedinam, I'll tell you what, how about if we give you a chance to just talk about yourself, your candidacy, and what you experienced as a person of color in your candidacy.
Well, thank you. I'll say my name. It's Sedinam Kinamo Christin Moyowasifza-Curry, and I'm seeking the Green Party nomination as its presidential flag bearer in 2020. Our campaign is about green system change. We want to change the system of our government, of our nation, so that it impacts us as our species to be sustained, as well as our earth, our planet to be re-energized and reinvigorated. I'm an 18-year veteran of the U.S. Green Party. Over the last 27 years, there's no system set up within the Green Party to recruit, train, nor develop people of color. I've made that my legacy, to make those 3 things happen, as well as to coach folks of candidate, given the demographics of our nation. So my experience has been 80-20. 80% of Greens I've interacted with the last 18 years are incredible human beings. Like me, we care about the planet. We all imbibe the 10 key values, the 4 pillars, and we're connected to global issues for sustaining our species and invigorating our mother planet, Earth. 20% has been negative, and that's based on white privilege and an inept, just not an understanding of what it's going to take for our national party here to actually win office. And that's having people of color in leadership position and recruitment and ending white privilege.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
Are you done? I'm sorry. I hope I'm not cutting you off.
Yes, I'm just trying to, keep it to 1 or 2 minutes. There's other folks not beside me here.
So we will delve into many of those topics that you brought up, or those ideas that you brought up. Felina, you were a candidate for the U.S. Senate. Can you talk to us about your experience there?
Well, it was interesting because I was a write-in candidate, so we focused at the state level for early voting write-in campaign to get on the ballot in the primary. And myself and another black male candidate, we were both about 480 write-in votes before the election. So we pretty much thought we were going to be in the bag, and on election night, the Secretary of State announced that myself and Connie, and congratulated us on Twitter, that we were myself and her were gonna go on to the general. And then 2 weeks later, after they verified all the votes, I had 237. So
Let me ask you, do you think this is typical of Green Party, how the Green Party is treated in the electoral system? Or do you think this is a with people of color?
I would think it was a little bit of the first part this time, because the whole atmosphere of us not taking seriously most of the write-ins that didn't get counted or officially counted later were in very small rural counties where they just, oh, those don't matter. So we don't have to count those, and make sure that the two major party candidates get counted, and that tend to happen in smaller counties. So
you believe there was
and it was harder for us because the smaller counties and the rural counties, they're affected more by the fracking in Ohio. So we did focus on environment concerns, and with some groups that the mainstream media here in Ohio called fake fracking groups, anti-fracking groups. And they were our biggest supporters and campaigned for us. So, yep.
That's very interesting. So you believe that there was some sort of voter suppression then?
Yeah, they didn't give us excuses. Some of them, I think, admitted that some write-ins, they wrote us in, but they didn't fill in the black circle.
Interesting.
So and that is supposed to be based on intent according to our laws. So that's not supposed to fly. Even with my name itself, they even have it written like if someone accidentally spelled my name the French way with the F, that was still based on intent, and that would have still been counted. So if someone misspelled my name, it's still been counted. Why did you delete votes because they didn't fill in the circle? Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, thank you. And thank you for being here as well. Aiden, you were a candidate in Berkeley for the city council. Can you talk to us about that and your experience there?
Yeah, so I was a candidate, Aiden Hill, they them pronouns, for city council in Berkeley's District 7, which represents the university, UC Berkeley, and neighboring areas. And so a lot of my work dealt with protecting and preserving People's Park, which is it's a park that's primarily built by people of color and maintained by people of color. The university, when we first announced, had tried to develop upon it, despite everyone in the community, regardless of the color of their skin, that they wanted this to remain a community park. And so I went into the greater Bay Area and understanding that the land originally belonged to the Ohlone people, and how the university as a whole systemically over the last 150 years did Puritan camps, as well as they systemically pushed Black people out of the south side of Berkeley. And that was a lot of what I was trying to mobilize around, making sure that people of color did feel heard. And right now, the crisis in the Bay Area is the number 3rd area of homelessness. And so there's a lot of Black people who are on the streets. And when I saw my race, I said I was the only Black candidate in this race representing a city full of Black homeless people. And what I found primarily was the problem is that everyone here is a Democrat, and they're staunchly Democrats. So like even at the local level, regardless of whether we have ranked choice voting or regardless of any apparatus, if you're not a Democrat, you're not going to get the endorsements, and you're not going to get any publicity that's not self-generated. And I actually had to get arrested in order to make headlines, because what they wanted to focus on was ideal candidates that were representative of the Democratic Party. And so that was primarily where I come in as a person of color, Afro-Indigenous person, and trying to maintain land rights for the people here.
Excellent. Well, I thank you all for being here, and I thank you all for running and representing, being great representatives for the Green Party. So in my introduction, I talked about the post-racial society because, you know, obviously Barack Obama broke that glass ceiling. What do you guys think of the U.S. as a post-racial society? Do you have an opinion on that? And in this panel, it's just kind of an open forum. So if you just kind of speak up, you know, if two people speak up at the same time, I'll kind of select one and we'll give everybody a chance. So does anybody want to talk about if we have reached a post-racial society?
I don't think so.
Yeah. You know, I think the conception is now that we've had a Black president or a person of color at the, you know, at the lead of the nation, that we're in law, you know, and we're all getting along together, and some of the issues that people of color have to face are no longer relevant, and we're all equal. So today, I think we want to talk about people of color in leadership roles in the Green Party, and whether or not we get the appropriate representation. In 2008, Cynthia McKinney was a Green Party nominee for president. Is this evidence that the Green Party gives equal representation to people of color?
I could say a no, because I didn't know about Cynthia till after the election. I was too busy running out of the Tea Party at the time because we were trying to end the Fed for reparations, so they got all the Black people out of the Tea Party.
Interesting, interesting. So you come from the Tea Party then?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Way at the beginnings when Ron Paul started it, and the meetups, and we were going to have a Black Tea Party front, and KRS-One was leading it, and we were talking about Black Wall Street and the history and how ending the Fed, addressing the history of Lincoln wasn't killed because he ended slavery. He was killed because of the greenback, and having to address the original history there, because the ending of slavery was built on a lie, because that wasn't what it was about. So, yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. And how long have you been with the Green Party now?
Well, when I moved here to Ohio, I didn't know about the Ohio state laws being different. So I missed my 2010 opportunity and didn't get a chance to claim green till 2012. So.
Gotcha. Okay. And Sedinam, did you want to say something?
I mean, these are three Black people. None of us would, I believe, agree that there's a post-racial society. One, you know, there's no such thing as race. We're a species. So that in itself is a product of ignorance, using the word race in regards to the different ethnicities that represent America. And this year marked the 400 year, the return from those of us who have African ancestry that were stolen and enslaved here to return back to Ghana, you know, symbolically. So the question, I was leery because it's not okay. It's not a good question. You know, people use it, but look at Donald Trump. He's the a peacock of American bigotry.
Right.
He's on the highest point of ignorance that we've had in a public forum since, you know, the KKK. You get what I mean? So yeah, okay. Like,
no,
America is not over. It's issues with Black folk. No.
That's the a very valid point, excellent point, and I think the evidence that that idea is completely false. Let's say what I've noticed since my political activism is that I often see leadership in progressive groups and in the Green Party that don't represent people of color. Do you think it's a lack of participation in our party by people of color, or what is it that holds back people of color from having leadership roles in our party? Anybody want to?
Yeah, I think it's not
Aiden.
about whether there's people of color in or outside the party, because we know that the two powers that are at play are systemically preventing the party from flourishing altogether. But is the party addressing the needs of people of color across the United States of America? Like, are we going actively into Flint, Michigan and getting water? And who are those Green Party activists who are making sure that's happening? Are we going into Oakland and stopping the coal trains that are being rushed across? And which people of color are those actively happening? I think for myself and a lot of people, and especially those who are in the Green Party, it's so much more important to identify with the local community than use the banner of the party in many ways, because you can when I go outside People's Park, people understand, oh, that's the area where people of color meet in the community. Not necessarily Aiden from the Green Party is going to People's Park, because that's in many ways because there's not enough effort to coalesce and make it a party that's addressing anti-capitalism and addressing structural violence when you're going outside and there's gun violence in the streets. Unless the Green Party in that community makes that a point and uses that banner, there's no point to advocate as the Green Party. And so I don't think it's a problem of whether the Green Party is helping end racism in its form. I think the Green Party as a whole is trying to do so. The problem is it's not identifying the communities which it's serving, in my opinion.
Interesting. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd like to build on what Aiden has pointed out. I'm a presidential candidate, and I didn't mention that I had run for VP before president, and then I'm running again. Part of the issue for me is there's no structure in place within the Green Party as a national political party to, one, recruit folks of color, two, to coach, three, to train, and four, to institutionalize those gains for any of us. So what my running as a VP, though I was ready to be a president, is to try to start a system of getting people of color, as well as to meet folks outside. I met my sister on my campaign trip to Ohio. I've met over 100 Black women that should stand up and run for president just like me. It's so critical that we end white privilege within our party so that our comrades who are green, who care about everything Aiden talked about, who care about everything Philomena talked about, and me, we move forward as ambassadors of green values, green logic, and green commitment to saving our planet. So for me, my run is a clear example of what folk have to do in order to move Black leadership forward. This is 27 years as a party, and we've had 3 European-based DNA folk running. Nader, who ran twice, Cobb, Dr. Stein, who's run twice, Cynthia one time. We have to break those patterns, and that comes because we are consciously aware of the 400 years of enslavement of folks, the territorial co-opt of brown people here, of internment camps of Asians. So we can't pretend that we don't know that we have to have a system of change to move our party to develop leadership for folks of color. That has to be a commitment on the national level as a party.
Interesting. So one thing I've heard about the Green Party is that, or they're dealing with the stigma of being kind of a old white hippie party. Do you think that prevents participation by people of color and then them being elevated, obviously, to people to roles of leadership? Do you, in other words, do you think that the Green Party is predominantly a white party going in?
Well, my experience is that many of our white allies don't want it to be. And they will bring us in, like for myself and for Robin, they'll bring us in and then we'll get elected to committees and then they'll be like, want to be on the state committee? Want to be the state treasurer? Want to be the leader? Want to be this? Come on, girl, go do that. Take it all over. And, you know, they're very nice. I mean, they try, but then at the same time, I see the other side of it when I see other women of color and other men of color that come into the national committee and they're like, this place is too toxic. I'm out of here. I'm gone. I'm no longer with the Green Party. And I'm literally like fighting to keep them in the caucus outside of the Green Party, like, okay, stay in the caucus. You're safe here in the caucus. And, you know, so we're trying, but it's like, now a lot of Black leaders do like to stay at the local level. They do not like to go too far up with state and national issues. They usually do well at the local level. I do notice, like, I think Jamari Thomas also mentioned that the word green is not attractive to Black people. Like, we need to call it something else. So we'll do better if we call it something else. Or so I don't know why that is. Why green is. When I'm petitioning, they usually think I'm talking about a weed party. So I don't know what the issue with the green name when it comes to the Green Party and Black people yet. I'm still trying to kind of figure that out myself. So.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to about the Green Party, and the first thing they say is they're for the legalization of marijuana. So much bigger, but I appreciate that view, you know, because we are for the legalization of marijuana. But so then it sounds like there is a perception that there is a stigma of the Green Party being kind of an old hippie party. And it'd be interesting to dissect that and try to understand how to overcome that. What about economically? Do you think it's economically hard to be politically active and to be in the Green Party? You like you said, they invite you to join all these committees, and you know that takes a bunch of time before trying to put food on the table. Does anybody want to comment on that?
I guess. Well, I can. Well, I guess they be. Some people are careful not to wear us thin. You know, we're all trying to work too many roles as it is, and then at the same time trying to recruit more people in to fill those roles. But at the same time, we had people that they're too scared to bring more Black people into the Green Party because of what they're experiencing within the Green Party. So they don't want to recruit more people in. I've had the Louisiana delegate tell me that before she left. Texas delegate tell me that before she left. So they come in and experience the toxic friction going on within the national party, and then now they don't want to recruit more Black people into the Green Party because they don't want. They're like ashamed of it. So I don't know.
Interesting. Does somebody want to talk about the toxic atmosphere of the Green Party? Could anybody want to define that, or what they've seen in their runs for their candidacies? Their runs for their office?
I'm so aware. Aiden I want Aiden to kick in because I know he has to leave. So I want, if he can take that up.
You have an opinion on that, Aiden?
For example, I use they, them pronouns. And a lot of people feel like they're not being heard when they're marginalized people. So I'm non-binary, and I've had a lot of pushback, especially from the Women's Caucus. Me and another person who happens to be trans is Violet. Can we get our pronouns right? And it goes in the same vein as race. Like, some people in the Green Party still argue, like, oh, what about black on black crime? And so we really do need to address, like, why are people intentionally, and it is an intentional act, misrepresenting people in different ways? And how do we make sure that, like, the language is there? Because here's the thing, like, people struggle with the language in many ways, like, let alone this country only allows us to learn one language, which is English. Like, in many other countries, you get to learn 2 or 3, and one being an indigenous language. And how do we make sure that we're representing all different types of people? Like, where are our non-American Black people in the Green Party as a whole? Like, where are we trying to advocate for the Caribbean communities, or even those who are Venezuelan right now and Afro-Venezuelan? Like, where are those people in our party? And why are we not highlighting them as the third world countries who are struggling against corporate interests and U.S. and multinational interests, really, across this land? And so it's respecting the language that people use for themselves and for others, and making sure that we understand that there is no one uniform Black experience, that Black comes in all shades and degrees, and how do we address that lack of nuance that comes with the discussion. But that's just my opinion.
Interesting. Did you want to say something on it, Sedinam?
Yes. I've been at Green for 18 years, and I'm 57. My great-grandmother was purchased by my grandfather out of enslavement. So I understand that, one, unless you attack and dismantle white privilege within any organization, all of what we're talking about is white privilege and ending it. Our campaign has put together a green positioning system, GPS 2020. One of those things we want to do, end white privilege. There's now I think it's 2-decade-old conference called Ending White Privilege that our party can take up and accept it and work with it for the next 3 years, so we have a clear understanding of what white privilege is. 2, how do we dismantle it? 3, how do we negotiate and dialogue with ourselves? And 4, have the honest discussions. In 2016, that's what I went around the nation doing, having honest dialogue and discussions with Greens, because unless we deal with this openly and honestly, how are we going to move past it? The other thing to talk about, because we have all run for office, is in 2016, Dr. Stein used a bogus title called presumptive nominee. The Green Party allowed an apartheid system. If you don't do this and that, then you can't come here. I blew it off and just kept running. Green Party people financed me to go to 41 states. I got delegates, irregardless of that bogus apartheid system. So the majority of Greens, as I have heard from my sister and brother, decent people. But we have to address this systemically, the same way we do it within our nation. So ending white privilege has to be important to all of us as Green Party people. That toxicity that sister talked about, the driving out of folks, the embarrassment of folks of color, this is a commitment and a conviction I made when I joined, because I was clearly aware white privilege. So if I don't make that an issue, then I can't live my green values. I can't do those pillars. I can't join with the global community. And it's all about lessons and learning. I wasn't raised around folks who were openly gay, openly trans. Being in the Green Party has given me insight, awareness, and a higher level of understanding. So I think if we all say to ourselves, we can all learn, because no one comes in perfect. Oh my goodness, Kent Mesplay, who's indigenous. He has inspired me as a scientist to learn more about the intricacies and the factors of climate change and global warming. I knew it wasn't right, but I didn't have the terminology to talk as I do now because of my relationship and my understanding because of the Green Party. So Green Party people, we gotta end white privilege. And we can do it in the Green Party because we care about saving the planet. And white privilege is a direct result of what? Capitalism. So if we're really eco-socialists, we gotta end white privilege. If we want anything green, we gotta end the white, because it's a fallacy anyway. The other point I wanted to make is that every person of color, our commitment is to a legacy for our children. I mean, every human being wants better for their future. So if that means being uncomfortable, we gotta do it. Our species is at peril. It is, so you can't be sensitive anymore. You gotta just move forward. I just called out, not me, but 4 candidates. I think 5 of us signed a joint statement of inclusion because we were being denied the right to speak when one other person was. That's not right. Green Party people rallied around us. Guess what's happening now? They've created a whole page. Green Party people, we have the heart of love. We want to change the planet because we love our Mother Earth. So I can count on the Green Party. There's just 20% of nuts that are not quite right, but they're still good. They just, been toxic. And we just have to ensure that we love that out of them some way, somehow.
Excellent. So a lot of what I'm hearing is, for instance, you said white privilege. Is white privilege, does that come down to an economic issue, or in large part an economic issue?
I'm going to wait for other people and then come in later.
Okay. Does anybody
Other
else?
folks.
Yeah, I mean, it is because, it was used to fight the classism that was rising in the Civil War, and it was originally classism and then they had to use race to stop that uprising and unity. So for capitalism. So they wanted to keep that thing going.
Come on,
So yeah, it stems from that. I mean, it reminds me of pretty much Immortal Technique also mentioned that about how it originally was to stop the class war. So.
Interesting. Aiden, did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, what is white privilege? White privilege is the ability to do everything that you would expect most people to do, except 10 times easier, right? And so being able to access a stable income, that's about white privilege. We should surely address like why are employers disregarding people of color sounding names on resumes 50% more in this country. Yeah, economics is definitely a big part of it. Also, the moral high ground that people display, especially those who are white. I've seen in many conferences in the Green Party where it's like you would have a all-white panel, and they would take minutes, like 10 minutes, just joking around inside of that panel when it comes to question and answer period. And I've seen Indigenous people specifically ask questions that are hard and thought-provoking. They would go on and try to silence and move on. But completely ignorant to the fact that in their own panel and their own time period, they wasted it away making jokes or talking about things irrelated to the struggle of the darker communities. And so it's a matter of time and proximity to power are key proponents of white supremacy as well. And so it's all about how do we make sure that people of color are given the space, and honestly, it's the space to organize in an effective capacity. And how do we make sure that their organizational patterns are highlighted, and not only highlighted, but given more of a responsibility on how we move forward. So like, I would love to see like a caucus form up in which we would take a struggle that's affecting the communities of color right now, maybe like the New Zealand mosque shooting, and like have that committee and talk about the issues and how it relates to people of color in their own places of worship, or the 3 churches that were just burned down in the United States as well, that were primarily used by Black people. And so I would like to see us take those issues seriously, and how to rebuild into reparations, and how do we use the Green Party's pool of money to actually give reparations to the people in the Green Party. And so there's a whole slew of what we can do, but it's like, who's going to be the ones to like officiate that? Who is going to be the ones to say, this is what I need to see from the national committee, and not be sent to a committee to write it out, but rather have the committee work with that group of people. And so it's like, that's what I want to say is like, white people have time to join a committee, whereas like people of color, like we can, or we can like actually tangibly help our own frontline communities. And so it's like, we have to try to navigate that in many ways.
Excellent. Sedinam, you started the Black Caucus in California. Can you talk about if that is a step to addressing these issues of white privilege?
I'm the co-founder of the Black Caucus for the National Committee.
Okay.
But what happens is that because of white privilege, a lot of Black folk who have been brought into the Green Party don't have the requisite knowledge of structural change within a system. So they wind up following folks because they brought them in, some level of loyalty, and they don't deal with, as Aiden talked about, the real issues to deal with it. And that playing off time, doing stuff, it's a step, but we have to take it on as a party, not as a caucus. It's a step. The Black Caucus is doing debates. They want to do these monthly debates. I believe strongly that having the Black Caucus get created in every state, we all get connected, and then we all meet each other, having those conversations about the difficulties we have had being green. We'll be able to put together a clear, this is what we've experienced, y'all. Let's deal with this. But you know, what if I hadn't been running for president? I wouldn't have met the sister. What if I hadn't interviewed with you? I would have got to know Aiden. We're friends on Facebook, but now seeing him, knowing him, I'm gonna bug him more. Do you get what I'm saying? So that interpersonal connection, and that's what the caucuses are meant to be. But here we are, and I'm in you and I are in California, one of the largest ethnic-based groups. But look at our leadership in the Green Party of California. It does not reflect you and I, a few years ago, got blocked by a European American.WE from participating in a debate. More than 100 people from around the country, Greens, got together a petition. I didn't have to do that. That gave me hope when our allies show up. I'm so proud of Green Party people. I wanted to make a point. I mentioned, off camera about the Veterans Caucus.
I'm not hearing.
I got cut off for a moment.
Yeah, you did. You got cut off, Sedinam. So can you go ahead and talk about the Veterans Caucus?
Makes me worried because you mentioned veterans, so go ahead.
Oh, no, don't worry. One of our presidential candidates is a veteran. I come from a family of proud veterans. So, you know, any group, I was just trying to mention that we need all these voters, and many of the voters connected to the different caucuses have a wider reach than just European DNA folks. So I wanted to make one point. The silent majority, the 40% of Americans that don't vote, we need a caucus to go after them. So, because they care about the earth. The Green Party has done an excellent job of making green known, maybe misknown for a few things, as we have heard. I'm a member of NORML, National Organization to Legalize Marijuana. So, you know, it's just work we got to do. We got to do the work. So I'm handing back over because it's whirling again. I think I'm going to get cut off, so I'm going to be quiet.
Okay. You did mention you're involved in other organizations outside of the Green Party. That's one thing I see, that a lot of leadership of not just the Green Party, but even other progressive organizations are often led by people who are not people of color. I guess that comes down to all the things we've talked about. Do you think it's important that we are involved in other organizations outside of the Green Party as well?
I think it's important to be involved in any organization that has the 10 key values, because those are the ones that are most likely to understand what it means to be a part of a party that is dedicated to eco-socialism.
Excellent. And let me ask this question. Are there procedural barriers within the Green Party that prevent people of color from reaching leadership roles or being represented equally? In other words, in our election process, in our nomination processes, is there barriers there? In your experience as candidates, have you seen that?
Yeah, I mostly the Black candidates that I've seen that reach out, we don't have enough organization, the Black Caucus, to give them support. And then locally, the Black candidates that run under the Green Party ticket, they don't get the local support of contacts that they need for their campaigns. And that's been an outcry, I think, since, as far as I know, since 2012. All the previous Black candidates that you no longer hear from again, it's usually because they didn't get the support from the Green Party. So that's usually the main issue, because we have, I mean, we had Jill Stein covered a Black candidate who ran for mayor here in East Cleveland, and I tried to get him more involved into local committee or state or something, but it didn't work. And it's just because maybe it's just me. I need more people, but
Yeah,
you know.
it comes back down to time and economics, right? So.
Mhm.
No, I disagree. I think it's structure. I keep hammering this because organizationally, if we don't coach, if we don't train, if we don't recruit, if we don't support, if we don't institutionalize, there's no way to maintain folks. That's what I hear. As soon as I hear about a Black candidate running in my state, I call them up. What do you need? I've been the campaign manager for just about everybody Black, because I come with that skill base. And there's one sister, I was calling her every week just to check in, but that has to be institutionalized, because like affirmative action, we have to have an affirmative action institute within the Green Party. That will be my legacy. This is my last time running as president. My next run is setting up the affirmative action institute of the Green Party of the United States of America. That's what I want to leave. That's what I know has to happen. So that support, the training, the coaching, the recruitment is in place to maintain folks of color, not just for Black folk. I'm gonna do it for everybody of color and queer, anybody not European male. And I'll help them too, but that's not my focus.
Well, I have to question you on that. Is how are you going to have time to do that when you're running the country as well, Sedinam?
Oh, that's not difficult. And see, when you inspire, you have to push people to all lead. Everybody should think they're the president. Because when you, I mean, look at how we got this interview. We had a chat. I put together a program. We released it. People came on. You had your own idea. I didn't have to do anything but say, okay, here's a structure. It's that simple. We got to the moon because of a challenge. Leadership should challenge us to do more. I believe that that's what my goal is, to motivate, inspire, and lead us beyond where we are to the next level, which is painting the White House green and saving our planet. Hallelujah.
I like that idea.
Okay, I'm done.
If there's no other comments from anybody else on that topic, I wanted to ask, does the platform of the Green Party appeal to people of color? People of color in all demographics, but any comment on that? Does it have the platform for us?
Well, yeah, it's black feminism is definitely in the Green Party's platform. It's just that we still have a lost world when it comes to Black feminism. Where does it fit into our American society? It still has to be taught and learned and structured by itself, because the right is trying to draw in Black nationalism with Trump and trying to draw that crowd in, and then the Democrats are trying to focus on Black socialism in the church, which has been the tried and true for decades for them, but that's fallen apart. So it seems to me that it's just a point that they just don't know we exist. That's just, I'm still focused on knowing that we exist in our outreach efforts, because that seems like the main thing that we just got to be known besides getting high. So
excellent. Very good points there. Anyone else want to comment on the platform and if it appeals to people of color? So what steps do you guys think, we've talked about some of it, but can we get down to specific steps kind of as we're winding down this conversation? What can we do next or going forward to bring people of color back in? Sedinam, you talked about education a lot, educating people of color and how to, navigate the Green Party. Is that a good next step for us?
Because it's a national organization, I have said it consistently, we have to make ending white privilege a platform issue. Because if we don't have a clear commitment to that, then we will keep hitting our head. The second thing is to internalize and to institute an affirmative action program for folks of color, leadership. So all the things we've all shared and talked about, from recruiting folks who are doing the work on the grassroots level to get them to connect it to a higher level of leadership, global even. That is not going to happen unless we coach, train, develop, recruit, and support. So it's two things: ending white privilege as a platform, two, setting up an affirmative action program for people of color at the national level. Our campaign put together what's called the green positioning system. It's points that we've gotten from over 1,000 greens, coming up with valid access, recruitment, ending white privilege, creating like 50% so that we get on the national stage for the debate, coming up with this amount that we get for this election, working with the left. So creating a system which is strategic and tactical planning for the Green Party over the next years. How can we not know 20 years out where our annual meetings are going to be? How can we not know who and what should be given our State of the Union address? There's no structure in place at the national level for event planning because we don't have national paid event planners. Our media, we have, these are things we can do so we raise enough money to run ads for nationally. Since we don't get corporate money and we're not, capitalists, we have to figure out a way to get 7 million sustainers to give us $154 in time or involvement every year. Then we would win the White House, win the state, win the local, win the municipalities. It has to be a long-term plan. And our campaign has been recruiting. I'll send it to anybody to impact. Just give me your email.
Excellent.
That's the next step. Those are the next steps.
Anybody else have any ideas? Aiden?
Yeah, so what does the Green Party have to do next? Well, this institution is failing in many ways. We're in the death throes of the ends of capitalism. Growing fascism is starting, and so show up where people of color are. We need border support. We need to teach mutual aid to these frontline communities. We need to end police brutality in all of its forms. And that means making sure that we have lawyers prepared to help people of color, especially when they're dealing with eviction, especially when they're dealing with institutional racism, and being attacked in broad daylight by these Nazis and Nazi sympathizers. We need to make sure that everything in our structure is saying that we believe that incarcerated people have the right to vote even while they're incarcerated. I mean, even having that voice, or alternative, that's going to be necessary for us to move forward as a party. When people of color feel safe enough to join this party, then we'll be able to move forward. But until we're making sure that we're institutionally, from bottom up, doing our implicit bias tests, having these conversations that are so necessary, and making sure that we have the tools of reparations at our disposal. And that means reinstituting our societies for workers' co-ops, for making sure that there's food justice, for making sure that everyone knows how to plant crops in their own front yards and backyards or apartment buildings or rooftops. Until people of color feel safe, we're not going to have much effort moving forward. And so I would say just keep going with the good work and doing your work on the local and national level, because there can't be anything about us without us. And we have to think globally, but act locally.
Wow, that's you made some great points.
Look, I'm like,
all the way around.
Do you want to be my vice president? Aiden, for VP 2020.
Selena, you have any comments on what we should do going forward?
There's some issues within the Black community too that are not green that has to be addressed, because locally, as you know, we're all gearing up for the Pride Fest and parades coming up. And a couple of years ago, 4 Black, I think they were trans, and they were beat up by the police at the Pride Festival here locally in Columbus. And I didn't know that they already started organizing a separate Pride Fest from that Pride Fest, because the Pride Fest is now are getting corporatized. Wow. So, and they're getting, like, I guess, State Farm and all types of sponsorships. So, and then they're bringing in these police to Pride Fests, and they're trying to find, like, some type of private security firm. They thought they found one that was ran by trans people, and they were still contracting with ICE. So it's like everybody's trying to do what's right with the values, and then within our own fights against rights for LGBTQ communities, we're still conflicting with all this other stuff that's going on, and then we're not getting the support from the Black community, for the Black queer community, for them getting beat up at a Pride Fest. It's like it's all over the place. I'm trying. So yeah. So
Thank you for that. So does anybody have any other topics that I haven't covered and that you may have wanted to cover?
My concern is that we document people of color who have run for office in the Green Party and do a presentation so that we can ask these folks a questionnaire, do a survey, so we can honor it and acknowledge their contributions, number one, and to find out where they are, what they're doing, and what happened. As she kept pointing out, these problems. So I think because we haven't done an institutionalization of this, we are not capturing data to make accurate decisions about the way forward. And continuing these dialogues as much as possible so that we tie in and connect it to our national leadership is critical. And I am very grateful, Michael, that you just move forward. And I look forward to other ones. I really do.
Excellent. Anyone else? Okay, so we'll wrap it up. And one thing Sedinam and I talked about was looking at demographics and the growth of people of color in the US and how it's going to be necessary for every organization to include people of color because we're growing as a demographic. What I found was they are also changing the demographics. For instance, when I was looking up statistics, I saw that they included Hispanics into whites so that they could make the white demographic seem larger and keep it a majority. We know that you know, we're a very diverse people, and I like to tell everybody that I'm everything. I feel like, you know, as a Hispanic American, I'm mixed with every race if you check into our DNA. And so it's important for people of color as Blacks, Hispanics, Asians, LGBTQ communities, disabled communities, Indigenous, and Sedinam talked about having more dialogue going forward. And I hope that we can do that and include some of these other groups and their perspective on how to improve and grow the Green Party. I do this as a labor of love. I love the Green Party. I do believe the platform can accommodate all of us. And I hope we can do more to help that effort, make this non-corporate, inclusive party and ecological socialist party grow into what we know it can be for the future of the United States. So I thank you all for being here, and I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll try to put up everybody's websites. Real quickly, does anybody, I know Sedinam's running for president, the nominee for president. Felena, are you doing anything in the future for the Green Party as far as running, or what's your next project?
I don't know. I'll probably stick with the committees and the back end work since I'm web person. So I will probably I have to revamp outreach since Joy left, and I'm working with David to get our Black Caucus website up as part of the $8,000 nation that we bought and don't use at the national level, but don't get me started on tech stuff. And but yeah, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I'm working on proposals and hopefully maybe our 2020 will be in Ohio. That would be my and if I'm gonna do that, and that's pretty much gonna take a lot of the time because that's the 50th anniversary of Kent shooting, and our symbolism of peace would work well with that 50th anniversary at Kent University. So, and I think a lot of people would enjoy going there on the 50th year that incident happened in 1970. So that's gonna be my thing to see if we can finally have one in Ohio.
Excellent.
See what happens.
Great. How about you, Aiden? Do you have plans in where you're going forward with the Green Party?
Yeah, I'll run for Berkeley Mayor in 2020. So
all right.
I'll announce sometime the beginning of next year.
All right.
So Sedinam's vice president then, huh?
Yes.
I don't know. She might steal you away, Aiden. It sounds like she likes that idea. Sedinam, you want to wrap it up at all? You want to say any last comments?
I'm just grateful that you've done this. I'm so happy. I've enjoyed the exchange the four of us have had. I'm hopeful for the future. I really am, because we want a better America. We want and that would be built on a best and a better Green Party. So I'm very grateful to everyone. It was a great Sunday with y'all.
All right, guys. Well, thank you. I enjoyed it too, and hopefully I'll see you all again on some more talks.
All right.
Bye.